Does power have a negative connotation, do you think? Yeah. And quite often that's because people attach power to misuse of power. And I've got a more neutral definition of power, where I think power is a force in change and politics is power in action. And it can be, that's a more neutral definition. And if you look at the sources of power, quite often I work with teams who are feeling disempowered and they don't realise what sources of power they actually possess. And that can take lots of forms. We've mentioned knowledge, skills. They'll have networks and contacts and people they can influence. They might be able to get things put on the agenda. That's called the power of processes. They know how to get things done. Power in numbers, and people they can engage. Lobbying power. And so, if you actually break down sources of power, when power becomes negative, it's when it's being misused. And misuse can mean it's been used to an individual benefit, or it's been used dishonestly to achieve another outcome than that people have achieved. It seemed to take power from others rather than using power positively. Does that make sense? Whereas a positive use of power is about using power to achieve a collective aim. Yes, there can be personal gain in there, but that isn't at the exclusion of other people having power as well. Does that make sense? So I think that's another test to apply to yourself as a leader, to think about what sources of power do I have and do I use, and how do I use them? And what sources of power do people have around me? And actually, could I tap into their power? Or mobilise that, or encourage them to mobilise that to achieve more of what we're all trying to do. So somebody might just say, oh, actually, yeah, I do know people who live in that estate. So, well, that's great, who do you know? Could you talk to them about what we're doing? You've got power there, you've got some knowledge, you've got some contacts, and we really want to get them involved in what we're doing.